I believe there are two economies. There's two economies operating in parallel in our world today, and you, the listener, have to choose which economy you want to operate in. There's the dependency economy, and that's when we're told you're not smart enough, just go to school, get a job, hand your money over to the professionals, they'll manage your money for you, and they'll give you back whatever's left over. That's the dependency economy. You're dependent on taxes, on markets, on inflation. It's out of your control and you're just kind of crossing your fingers. The other economy is called the ownership economy. And in the ownership economy, you own real assets. And when you own real assets, inflation, the thing that's destroying so many people today, this is why housing is unaffordable, is because of inflation. Inflation actually makes you wealthy when you own assets. It makes the way the government handles the economy, it makes savers poorer and it makes owners richer. And it's so frustrating that that's the way they do it, but that is the world that we live in. And so in the ownership economy, the most powerful tool that we have access to is leverage.
Welcome to the Bricks and Banks podcast, where real estate meets real wealth. Whether you're building from the ground up or stacking your paper to the ceiling, Steph breaks down property power plays and money moves you can act on. From first-time buyers to seasoned investors, this podcast is your blueprint for financial freedom through real estate, business, and investment. Subscribe now. It's time to build your future. This is Bricks and Banks with Steph.
Hey everyone, welcome to another amazing episode of the Bricks and Banks podcast. Today's guest is someone whose story I've been genuinely looking forward to, because when I got his profile, I read through his work and I was just astonished. Ryan Lee has a lot under his belt and he's here to share that wealth of knowledge with us today. So imagine doing everything right, following the rules, trusting the system, building what she thought was a solid financial future, and then watching most of it disappear just because of the financial system that you thought. The playbook that was supposed to give you the results is the same system that is bringing everything crashing down. Ryan Lee is the founder of Wealth Outside Wall Street, which is a platform that is helping high-end and entrepreneurs escape the traditional retirement model and build real lasting wealth through passive income. So Ryan is all about passive income, how to get your money back into the game, and how to retire without the traditional waiting for your pension every other hour. He created the passive income machine framework, which is combining cash flowing real estate, stock strategy, and private capital into a system that's helped him retire at just 34. And you need to share all that juicy bits because my ears are standing right now. Since then, he has completed over 3,000 deals, built a 250 million real estate vault. He has authored the book Retire in 10 Years or Less and has spoken on some of the world's biggest stages in the personal finance world. Ryan, your profile is scary, but welcome to the pod today.
I tell you what, that sounds impressive. I'm not sure who wrote that, but that does sound impressive.
That is what you
Stephanie,
did. I didn't write it. You did it. So I just picked up what you did. And
I am so excited to be here with you because the whole game that we're going to talk about today is how do we take the money that we have and how do we buy our life back? That's the game of investing, right? It's just how do we create income independent of our time so we have more options and more control.
When people talk about retirement, they think of retirement as something you do when your bones are weak and you just lie down on the bed and get fed from the scraps of what you've saved off. But what does retirement really mean for you today?
Yeah, Stephanie, I think that's the biggest lie told in finance, that if you trade 40 years of your life, one day you'll have enough money saved up to be able to buy what little is left over of your life back. And the biggest lie in that game that we're taught to play is you don't find out if it works until the very end. You don't find out if it worked until you're 65. And here's the challenge, right? So no matter where your money is at today, as you're listening to this, all of the listeners out there, no matter where you've chosen to put your money, if you can't answer one question, you don't have a financial freedom plan. And here's the question: how much income do your assets produce predictably and consistently every single month? And if you can't answer that, right? There's not a financial plan behind what you're doing. And that's kind of what I discovered early on for me, Stephanie, is, I was taught like so many people, go to school, get a job, put your money in the stock market, right? Mutual funds. Here in the United States, we do 401ks, but it was in the stock market. I was giving my money away to something I had no control over. And no one talked about how much income you could get from those assets. They measured your success based on your net worth and based on
Yes.
your rate of return. And both of those things are important, but no one ever talked about cash flow. And I remember for me in 2008, I learned the hard way, as I watched my stock portfolio kind of crash. I learned the
Wow.
hard way that A, I didn't have any control, and B, I wanted to walk away from the corporate world. And I found out that all of my money was tied up in accounts that I couldn't even touch until I was 59 and a half. And that's what really opened up my eyes to realize I was playing a game that I had to trade my entire life for, and I wasn't willing to do that.
So how did that setback make you be where you are today? Because it's easy for us to give motivational speeches, but you were in the middle of that thing. Did you have like a mentor? Was it a different shift? What happened at that moment that triggered you to start thinking differently?
Yeah, I love that question, Stephanie. So, really, two things. Okay. I was 5 years out of college in 2008. And, I had a goal that I wanted to retire early. I didn't like the corporate world. I didn't like having a boss. I knew I had to make money. I had to provide for my family. I had a young kid on, when I first got married. And so I felt the weight of the burden to provide, but I wanted to retire early. And so I started making good money and saving good money. I was saving as much money as I could. And I remember in 2007, my net worth crested $100,000. Okay. So I thought, hey, I'm on track. Something's working, right? I thought maybe I'll retire early. Again, I had no idea what that meant. But in 2008, I watched my net worth go from $100,000 down to 28,000. And for the first
Mm,
time, I realized I had no control. And secondly, I realized that there's no possible way I could retire early if I'm using a system that would go up and down and I didn't control it. But here was the biggest wake up call that I had, Stephanie. I had a window into my future. I was working with people that had been doing, stocks and bonds and mutual funds for 20, 30, 40 years. And in 2008, I watched all of their retirement melting down before their eyes. I watched people literally having panic attacks in my office. And I realized that's me, right? That's like fast forward 30 years and that's me, right? If I don't change what I'm doing now, how could I ever expect a different outcome in the future? And so when your paradigm changes, when your perspective changes, the world that you see changes. So I started looking at the game of investing differently and looking for alternative options. And I came across a couple of books. Book number one, Rich Dad
which
Poor Dad. Most people have read that book or at least heard that book. And when I read that book, it confirmed all of the suspicions that I had. It kind of gave me language to identify why I was feeling so stuck and trapped. And it proved to me that everything I knew about money, it was wrong. It was wrong. If I wanted to be financially free, everything I was currently doing would never get me there. But the challenge with Rich Dad Poor Dad was it gave me a new perspective, but it didn't give me any tactics.
when you said rich dad poor that was my wake up call as well. However, I was lucky that I finished university at the time because if I was still in school, I could have dropped out.
Mm,
Yeah.
I tell you what,
It
that's
gives
kind
you
of
a
how
bit
I
of
felt too.
ideas. It doesn't give you, like you said, the blueprints to take the action.
It woke me up and I'm like, okay, I see the world differently now. What do I do? And so the second book that I read, and this one is really what changed my life. It was a book written by Robert Allen. And the title of his book, it was called Creating Wealth, but it wasn't the title that caught my attention. It was the subtitle. The subtitle of his book said, Follow Allen's 7 principles and you could retire in 10
Yeah.
years. And Stephanie, I thought to myself, I can do anything for 10 years. What the heck are the principles? And so I read that book, and I'll never forget when I got to chapter 4, he laid out the most simple path I had ever seen. And I believed I could do it. And his path was buy 2 single family homes every single year for 10 years straight. So 2 every year. At the end of 10 years, you'll have 20 houses, and the income that you generate from those houses would be enough to cover your expenses. And that's really what set me off, right? Once I picked up that book, I bought 3 properties in my first year. I bought 17 properties in 4 years, and I walked away from a six-figure corporate salary 4 years later. So that was kind of my start into the world of alternative investing.
Wow, that's amazing. So you just jumping in on the go because at that time you had the money, you were already in corporate, you're working in Wall Street. Is that correct?
I wasn't working in Wall Street. I was working in medical. I used to sell medical hospital equipment, medical devices. I was investing in Wall Street. I had all my money in the stock markets.
Okay.
Then I pulled it out, whatever I had left over, because I lost my net worth went from 100,000 down to 28,000. So I stopped putting any money into mutual funds, 401(k)s, and I started buying real estate instead.
Yeah. So for many people listening today, this whole real estate investing seems like a rhetoric. People say, oh, yeah, buy a house. And people can't afford houses today. What's the best bet? What's the first step they should take to make that, to take action? Let's just put it that way.
Totally. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't afford 17 houses either. So I'll talk about how I did it, but then let's first talk about why real estate is such a powerful tool. Okay? Because there's one tool in real estate that's if when you get your wealth. So here's what I believe, Stephanie. I believe there are two economies. There's two economies operating in parallel in our world today. And you, the listener, have to choose which economy you want to operate in. There's the dependency economy, and that's when we're told you're not smart enough. Just go to school, get a job, hand your money over to the professionals. They'll manage your money for you and they'll give you back whatever's left over. That's the dependency economy. You're dependent on taxes, on markets, on inflation. It's out of your control and you're just kind of crossing your fingers. The other economy, it's called the ownership economy. And in the ownership economy, you own real assets. And when you own real assets, inflation, the thing that's destroying so many people today, this is why housing is unaffordable, is because of inflation. Inflation actually makes you wealthy when you own assets. It makes the way the government handles the economy, it makes savers poorer and it makes owners richer. And it's so frustrating that that's the way they do it, but that is the world that we live in. And so in the ownership economy, the most powerful tool that we have access to is leverage. Leverage is
Mm.
a force multiplier. Leverage in real estate will turn $1 that you have to trade your time for, and it'll turn it in, if you do it right, it'll turn it into 5 working dollars. So that's how we start to accelerate and compress timeframes is by using leverage. Now, leverage is a double-edged sword. It can grow your wealth really, really quickly, but if you don't have the right financial intelligence, it can also put you in a very precarious spot. So the biggest advantage to getting your wealth outside of Wall Street is you realize your financial intelligence, you're the asset. The
Yes.
smarter you get, the richer you get. And so that's really why I like real estate so much and the system that we use. And I'll add one more component in a moment. But if I can turn $1 that I have to trade my time for into $5 and I can do it tax free, then that's the game I want to play. That's how I accelerate my time frames. And that's how I can retire in 10 years or less is with leverage. Now, I'll share with you how I did the real estate. Are you okay with that?
Yes. My ears are pressed. Let's get
Okay.
into it.
So here's another form of leverage. Okay. Most people think leverage is just borrowing money from a bank, and that's a powerful form of leverage. But the other forms of leverage in real estate is creativity, ingenuity, partnering. When I first got going in real estate, my first 8 properties that I bought, I did in a partnership, meaning I didn't have the capital. I mean, I didn't have enough money to buy the real estate, but there's 4 components to doing a deal successfully in real estate. There's the capital, there's the credit, so you can access bank money, there's the know-how and expertise, and then there's finding and managing the deal. And so I brought 3 of those things to the table. I developed my expertise, my know-how, I found deals, I brought my credit to the table, I just didn't have the capital. And I went out and I found people that do have capital that didn't have the time to go do the deals, and we partnered. And that way they got to own a piece of real estate completely passively. I got into the real estate, did the rehab, found the properties, got everything going, and we owned the property. In most cases, we did a 50. So that's what allowed me to get going. And then each one of those little assets, they started kicking off cash flow and they started creating equity. And then as we split that revenue, that gave me more revenue. And I bought my next 11 houses all on
Nice.
my own.
I love the way you put it because most people, when they start out investing, they're not willing to risk themselves. How do I mean? I mean that they just think about, oh, everything has to be do with money. I need to do this on my own. And you mentioned something that was key. Leverage is not just financial leverage. You made use of human leverage, the partnerships, the connections you had to broker that deal. And that gave you the capital you need for the next set of 17 houses you got later on. But taking the first step to doing that on your own, to reaching out to people, most people are shy. They feel like, oh, you're just going to get a no, but you're not going to get a no until you ask. And what's a no is just two letters, N-O. The yes is
Totally.
so you can actually take the bold step. No matter the no's you get, you're still going to hit that yes. And many people are looking for people to partner with. It's just that they can't see these people because they're too busy with their work. They're too busy on their jobs. So yeah, but you went out
And
of your
let's
way to
actually,
reach out to people that these are your very first investors. You reached out to them, got their money, and brokered a deal that set you up for your real estate
yeah.
ventures.
And let's actually talk about the risk there. You said most people, they're afraid of the risk of no. We're
Yes.
taking a risk either way. Like the risk of not hearing a no is retiring broke. The risk of not hearing a no is keeping your money on Wall Street with your fingers crossed and not finding out that you can't retire until the age of 65. So it's just, man, I want to get my risk out of, I want to get my no's now, right? I want someone to tell me no today so I
Yes.
can get to the yes faster. And as I get to the yes faster, then everything starts to work on my behalf. And here's the crazy part, Stephanie, and for all of your listeners out there, consider this inside of our economy, and this is a global phenomenon. There are four forces, and they exist for every single one of us. They exist for me, they exist for you, Stephanie, they exist for the president of the United States, anyone, it doesn't matter. Anyone out there, these four forces exist. And you have to ask yourself where you're putting your money. Are these forces working for you? Are they making you wealthy? Or are they
Hmm.
working against you? Are they making you poorer? And here are the four forces. Number one, taxes. Wherever you're putting your money, are you paying taxes on the gains that you make? Are you deferring your taxes on the gains that you make? If you're paying taxes, that force is working against you. If you create tax-free gains, that force is working for you. The biggest one is inflation. If your money is getting devalued because of inflation, inflation is working against you. It's making it harder for you to get ahead. But when you, like I said, with the ownership economy, when you own assets, as the government prints more money, prices of assets go up, and now inflation makes me wealthy. So with taxes and inflation, if I buy the right assets and position my money accordingly, inflation and taxes make me wealthy. The third one is interest rates. Interest rates are really just the cost of money. And if I can borrow money at a fixed interest rate from a bank over 30 years and buy an asset that will give me a higher interest rate in the form of earnings, that's positive leverage. If I park my money in Wall Street and then I use credit cards to fund my life and I pay interest to a bank,
Yeah.
interest rates are working against me. And last but not least is opportunity cost. If I put my money in places that I can't touch it, this is how most people invest. They lock their money up and they can't even touch it until they're 59 and a half. And so even if there are phenomenal deals in front of them, they can't see it because they don't have the ability to take advantage of it. So if your money is in a place where inflation, taxes, interest rates, and opportunity costs are working against you, you'll never retire. It'll be for every step forward you take, no matter how hard you work, there are four forces pushing you back. But if
Yeah.
you just make one shift and start understanding how these economic forces work and buy assets that align with these economic forces,
Mm-hmm.
now these forces make you wealthy automatically. And that's really the game of money today. It's raising your financial intelligence, positioning your money appropriately, and then using those economic forces to your advantage.
Right. And I feel like this is a masterclass and this is not, I don't think I'm paying you enough for this. This is totally high level and it makes a lot of sense. Taxes, inflation, interest rates, and opportunity cost of losing investments. The truth is, regardless of the situation, these forces are active in any economy. So even if people are saying, oh, AI, whatever, the best investment opportunity that captures everything is real estate. And that's why I love real estate. And that's why you're retired today and you're just doing what you want, enjoying yourself and chatting on podcasts. But yes, like we said, real estate is the one that basically captures everything because it protects you from taxes. It grows your investment with inflation. It gives you return on interest rates because interest rate is going to be in your favor regardless. And you have predictable cash flow coming up because nobody's going to move to a different planet. We need a place to live. We need a place
Yeah.
to host data centers and whatnot. So where to live, where to shop, where to exist, real estate is still valid regardless. So that's why I love real estate so much. It's so diversified and you can do it in different ways. I love the way you put it, and it's just making so much sense. Thank you. I had to take notes. I was writing down a couple of things when you're talking because nah.
Well, I love that, Steph.
Let's talk about your philosophy on the passive income machine. So this is a
Yeah.
system that's combining cash flow, real estate, tax strategy, like we just talked about, private capital in a structured way. So what does that actually look like the regular person, the typical person in the streets? What does a passive income machine look like for them?
Well, this is a lesson I had to learn early on in real estate. Okay. So I got into real estate because I was sick of, not being in control. I wanted to retire. And it's not that I wanted to not, I just wanted more options with my life. I wanted more control
Yeah.
over my time. That's really what I wanted. But here's the challenge. When I bought my very first 3 properties, I realized I had a problem on my hands. It took me it took me a lot of time to find a property, to manage a property, to rehab a property. And Stephanie, I'll be honest with you, I'm probably the world's worst property manager. If my tenant would call me up and say, "Hey, I can't pay the rent this month," I would cry on the phone with them and I would end up just paying the mortgage, right? And so I'm a horrible property manager. And I realized after 3 properties, what I was doing was actually getting me further away from financial freedom. I was
Mm,
building another job. And financial freedom is a function of 2 things. It's a function of cash flow greater than expenses. That's how we measure financial freedom.
yeah.
But it's also a function of time. How much time do I own based on the income that I'm receiving? And so after my first 3 properties, I realized, hey, I've got to start working smarter, not harder. And that was a big shift for me because I'm not afraid of hard work. I've always worked really hard in my life and I kind of like working hard. But working smarter was I had to become a CEO of a system. Think about a CEO of a company. The CEO doesn't do all the work. They don't do the fulfillment, the marketing, the branding, the HR. They manage a process to definitive outcomes.
Yeah.
And so that's really what I needed to do. And so the way I started doing real estate, the best way to call it today, it didn't really exist back in the day, but it's turnkey. I wanted to buy and own an asset where someone else found the property, they rehabbed the property, they renovated the property, they found a tenant, they put a tenant in the property, they managed the property. And I had very clear expectations of what I was willing to pay them to do and the outcomes I needed to achieve on that property, and I owned the property for all the upside. That allowed me to go from being stuck at 3 properties to scaling all the way to 17 and walking away from my corporate job. And now today I own, hundreds of doors, hundreds and hundreds of doors. But I do it now in a way that I spend probably about, I don't know, 5 to 6 hours a month as a CEO of my portfolio managing the system, not doing the work inside of the system. That was the biggest key for me. That's what allowed me to go from, being stuck to now having a system that really did buy my time back. So that's one of the key advantages. Most people that talk about real estate, that do real estate, that teach about real estate, they teach you how to do it actively. And there's really nothing wrong with that. You can make really good money doing real estate, but you're
Yeah.
still not free. You have to have a system where income comes into you independent of your time. And that's what the passive income machine is all about. We walk you through a system how to protect your money from taxes forever, how to own assets passively, and how to cycle your cash in between what we call a vault, which is an overfunded life insurance policy, and then turnkey real estate. And we cycle our money through these 2 different assets and we create multiple 6 figures of tax-free wealth.
That sounds like a whole academy. Is there a way people can register for the Vault program?
Yeah, I'd love that. Let me kind of tell you what we've done in the last couple months. I've been working with when I walked away from the corporate world, I walked away from myself, right? I walked away because I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I'll
Mhm.
never forget. I used to work in the medical field and I walked away at 34 and there was a doctor. He was 52. His name was Dr. Wes Brown. And a couple, as soon as I walked away, most people thought I was crazy. They're like, what the heck is this guy doing? He walked away from a great career. What's he doing? But there were a few people, and Dr. Wes Brown was one of them. He came up to me, he's like, "How
Yeah.
did you do it, and can you show me too?" And I remember sitting down with Dr. Wes Brown at my kitchen table, and I'm like, Man, you're in your 50s, dude. I mean, we gotta do things different for you, but if I were in your shoes, here's how I would do it." And over the next couple months, I watched him change everything. I watched him go from the dependency economy to the ownership economy, go from those forces working against him to working for him. And that guy,
Mm.
he had enough money. He retired in 18 months. And
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy. And then
Resilience.
he started, yeah, 18 months he walked away. And so in his early 50s at 53, completely financially free. But then he started sending other people. He's like, talk to this friend, talk to this person. And all these people come and started talking to me. And so I started helping people one by one, individually. And before I knew it, it turned into a company. And we've now helped 3,000 plus people take control of their money and build what we call the passive income machine. And a couple of years ago, I decided to go back to my first mentors, Robert Allen, who wrote the book Creating Wealth, and Robert Kiyosaki. And I invited him to one of our events. We do these live events every year. And I invited them to one of our events and I gave them a Lifetime Achievement Award just to say, I'm so grateful for you. You wrote
Yeah.
these books. You taught me how to do some amazing things. And I've been able to help all these people. And they were so honored by that, that they really kind of dove in and found out what we were doing.
Mm.
We co-authored this book together. So Robert Allen
Yeah.
and I wrote the book, and Robert Kiyosaki forwarded the book for me. And this book right here, it is literally a playbook. I wrote it as a playbook. So anyone that wants to pick this up, you can go to retireintenyears.com. There is a free companion course with it. So it
Mhm.
gives you calculators, it gives you exercises, everything that you need to build your own passive income machine. I just included it with the book. And that way you can see exactly how you can do it no matter where you're starting from.
Nice. You basically picked up the top giants in the building, Robert Allen and Robert Kiyosaki, and built the passive income machine with them.
It
That's
was
amazing. And
phenomenal.
it's very phenomenal because you're just one of the very few people that have done that in this field. And I like the way you talked about leveraging the skills, leveraging your assets, and the way that the doctor's story turned around in less than 18 months. Many people think financial freedom is a long way off.
Yeah.
But look at the case of the doctor. He didn't know that it was just 18 months away from him until he spoke with you.
You know, that Stephanie, that's what I really take the most pride in what we do. As I first started doing this with people, I would come in and I would build them what we call the game plan. And I would say,
Mhm.
okay, who cares? Like, let's not talk about your rate of return. Let's not talk about any assets. What do you want? And we'd get really, really clear on what they wanted, why they wanted what they wanted, and how much it cost. Once I
Yeah.
understood that, that became our North Star. Now we know what success means. Then we'd come back and we'd look at the assets that they currently have today. And we'd answer that
Mhm.
question that I invited your audience to consider at the very beginning of this podcast. How much income do your assets that you currently have today generate? And if it's a low amount or we don't know, then we would reposition assets into or reposition money into assets that start generating immediate income. And then all future and current savings would go to these systems and tools that would just add more fuel and fire to the equation. And we would track it step by step, action by action. And it's phenomenal. Let's say your number's $10,000 a month. Right now we know what our target is. We know what our North Star is. And if you have enough assets right now that we can shift into a system, and let's say immediately we can start generating $2,000 a month for you based on what you currently have, now you know you're 20% of the way to financial freedom. And if you're generating $2,000 a month from your cash flow, then that $2,000 a month, it starts working on your behalf. It makes buying the next asset that much faster. Your savings, your assets are savings for you, and it accelerates your plan. And so anyone with the right game plan, the right clarity, and the right system behind them, anyone can achieve financial freedom in 10 years or less, period. I've seen people in their 20s do it, people in their 70s do it. I've seen people that start off in debt do it, people that have resources do it. It doesn't matter who you are. Once you know how the economy works, you can make this happen for you in 10 years or less.
Yeah, amazing. And I think many people misconstrue what financial freedom is. People assume financial freedom is when you have like £3 billion in their in the account. No, you don't. Financial freedom is the amount of money you have, you can live on without having to work, without having to
Yes.
actively work. So that's why you're the passive income strategist. You're helping people to build our systems. Because I like what you said about being the CEO of your life. Many people are not taking charge of their financial life. They're just outsourcing it. You need to take on that responsibility, own it, even if it's just for the next 6 months. Narrow down on what's happening in your finances, own that process, and build a system around it. That way you can have a clear picture of what steps you need to take to make financial freedom. Because financial freedom, many people are not really looking for $1 million, to be honest. Many people just need $10,000 a month to be okay for the rest of their life. $10,000 cash flow monthly, and they're fine. And this is not a big deal. It's something you're doing with people younger than me. So the possibilities are endless.
And can I say one thing on that, Stephanie? I think
Sure.
you hit the nail right on the head. And I don't know if this was done for convenience or if it was done to trap people, but today our world has become increasingly digital. Now, I'm grateful for that. You and I are getting to talk right now. I'm in the United States, you're in London, and digital world is connecting us, and I love that.
It's good.
But it's actually causing a problem when it comes to money, right? And here's the problem that it's causing. We're not connected to our money anymore. Do you remember back in the day when if you wanted to spend money, you had to take out your wallet or your purse and look
And
in and
check.
see if there was any bills in there? And if there
Yeah.
was a bill, you would spend it. If there wasn't, you couldn't spend any money. Today, everything is digital. You can tap a button on your phone and have a package show up on your doorstep in 2 hours, and we lost track. We've lost track of where our money is going, and that
Mm.
traps people. Every dollar that you have in your life today, think about it this way. That dollar is something you traded your time for. If you mismanage that dollar, you are dishonoring your time. And if you mismanage your dollars for long enough, you are trapped in a system where you have to trade your time just to maintain your life. And so the objective of everything I talk about, there's 3 gears in this passive income machine. Gear number 1 is you have to become a CEO of your money. You have to take charge. We call ourselves empire builders. Every dollar has a job. Every dollar has a job. And I'm going to manage and ensure that my dollars help me build and live the life that I want to live. That makes it really, really clear and intentional. That way I can look at where my money's going and say, did that money go towards a goal or a value that I have, or is it going to a necessity? I can question where my money's going. And as the CEO of my money, I can redirect it to go to places that are more meaningful and more impactful to the life that I want to live.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. And when you were talking earlier, you mentioned something about insurance. I know a lot of people have this love-hate relationship with insurance. It's good when you're on the receiving end, but it's annoying when you have to pay the premiums. So talking about insurance as a wealth building tool, which is opposite of how most people think about it, high earners tend to see it as a cost, not an asset. So what's the simplest way to explain why the wealthy have always used insurance as leverage?
You know what, Stephanie? So much of what I've done inside of my career has been learning from other people. And I remember I sat down very early on in my journey. I met someone who was doing real estate very, very successfully. And I asked him if he would show me how he was doing it. And he said, Ryan, I don't actually do real estate. Even though he owned a lot of real estate, I do insurance. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about? That makes zero sense. And he asked me one question that changed the way I thought. Okay. And he said, where do banks keep their money? And I want you to consider that for just a moment. It's like we put money into banks, right? And we know that a bank turns around and lends our money out, but banks have to keep a certain amount of money. It's called tier 1 and tier 2 capital they have to keep a certain amount of money in liquid, reserve, safe location. Now, I thought, well, of course, if a bank needs to keep money liquid and safe, they're just going to keep it in the bank vaults. But
Yeah.
that's not true. Banks buy what is called bank-owned life insurance. They have trillions of dollars in bank-owned life insurance. But here's the catch. It's not life insurance in the sense that they own the death benefit. It's a place that they store their cash. So here's how this works. Now, in the United States, I'm not sure how it works in London, but in the United States, there are only 3 places you can put your money that
Mm.
truly eliminate taxes and make things tax free. You can put your money in a Roth IRA. You can put your money in municipal bonds, debt backed by the governments, or you can put your money in life insurance. Those are the only 3 places. Most people think that life insurance is I pay a premium and I get a death benefit. But the way the wealthy do it, okay, the way the wealthy do it is it's called overfunding. They put as much money into these specially designed life insurance contracts. They buy the least amount of insurance just to keep it qualified as insurance. And
Yeah.
all of the extra premiums, all of the overfunding, it goes into a private account with a private insurance company. Think about it just like your own bank. Inside of this private account, you earn a tax-free rate of return. It's guaranteed by the insurance company. You earn a tax-free dividend, so you share in the profitability of the insurance company.
Yeah.
Your money is 100% safe. It's a private contract between you, a private individual, and a private insurance company. And you get you control it. You get a private line of credit. So every
Wow.
dollar that I have in that account, if I have 100,000, if I have 100 million, I can use a private line of credit on that capital, which means my money will continue to compound and I can leverage the value of that money to accomplish my short-term goals. This
Hmm.
changed everything for me. Once I understood this, I just started opening up my own private insurance contracts. I call them vaults, but it's really private insurance contracts where I put as much money into it as I can. All of the profit from my real estate, I don't keep it in a bank anymore. When I do cash out refis, I don't keep it in a bank. When I'm making money and saving money, I don't keep it in a bank. I put it in these private accounts. And now my money is growing tax free. It's accessible to me. It's 100% safe and it's a private contract. That's really the secret to the passive income machine
Wow.
is you need to make money from your active efforts. You need to
Mhm.
keep the money that you make, and that's what these vaults do. Then you need to leverage the money that you've kept and turn it into a capital regeneration machine, and that's real estate. You put those 3 things together, it's a winning formula. You'll crush it. You'll achieve financial freedom in 10 years or less.
My mind is blown like this because I've never heard about insurance like this before. I know, yes, insurance firm are the institutional investors, they are the market movers, they do everything in the stock market, they move the market. But I had never thought about this is how banks leverage insurance to create their own capital regeneration machine, like you called it. Wow,
It's crazy. And the
this is just
wealthiest,
pure
like
information.
when you really look at it, it's like Warren
Yeah,
Buffett's, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, Hillary
exactly.
Clinton, Barack Obama, like all of these famous, extremely rich people, this is where they keep their money. I mean, they
Hmm.
keep their money in these private life insurance contracts. And when I realized that, it just kind of it further pissed me off, to be honest with you, that I really feel like the game of money, it's crushing so many people, right? So many people are feeling so stuck today. And it's
Yeah.
because they're told to just hand their money over to someone else and hope that it works out. They're in the dependency economy. The wealthy, they use systems, they use tools and products where they control their money themselves. And that's what puts them in the driver's seat. When there's opportunities, they tap into their private line of credit in these insurance contracts and they go seize the opportunities, whether they're buying real estate, buying companies, it doesn't matter. I mean, it blew my mind once I saw how really wealthy people operate. And the more I looked into it, the more I couldn't not see it. I saw it everywhere. So that's why I say there's these two worlds of money, and you just got to choose which world you want to operate in. And when you're in the dependency economy, everything feels hard. It feels like you're taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. It feels like the second some crazy person, like, I mean, right now, our world has got so many problems and
Yeah.
the market is up and down and everyone feels out of control. I haven't lost money in almost 18 years now. I mean, that's
Oh,
crazy. I've not lost money in 18 years because I'm using a system that protects every dollar that I have and I'm
Mm.
buying assets that rise with inflation. And so that's the game, is stop being dependent, start being independent. Control your money, raise your financial intelligence, buy assets, and protect your profits.
Brian, I just want to sit in this moment because you just dropped a lot of gems and I'm grasping everything. I think we need to have a spin-off episode where we just basically break down everything from your book. But I like the fact that you've given us a pointer, go to the book, and there's a free course and workbook that will guide you through that. So what's the typical turnaround time for people? I know it varies for people, but what's the reasonable timeline you see people make real impacts from
Yeah,
leveraging steps in your book?
I'll be honest with you. The typical time I see people is around 5 to 6 years. They achieve
Mhm.
complete financial freedom. If you come in with a lot of assets, then it's really easy just to reposition your money and cash flow just turns on immediately. If you're starting from ground zero, we've got to start from ground zero. But I think the most powerful thing about what we've created at Wealth Outside Wall Street is a community. It's challenging to do the opposite when you're by yourself. It's scary. It's hard when everyone else is doing something in the market and you're like, am I the crazy person? But when you get around other people that are doing it or have done it, you start
Yeah.
to gain a sense of confidence because you realize these other people, they're not any smarter or better than you. They're just using a different system. And when you can ask them questions and see how they're doing it and what they would do in your situation, it starts to become so much more believable for you and more actionable for you. So that's what I would say. We have an online community in Facebook, Wealth Outside Wall Street. We do live events. Inside of the book, we help, like, you can build your own game plan, but if you want us to build it for you, we'll show you how we would do it if we were you. We'll invite you into our community. It's everything that you need. We bring all of the assets, all of the tax strategy, all of the community, all of the support, the software, everything that you need to take control over your money and build your own passive income machine. We just bring it all to the table. And the goal of the community is, yeah, let's do the stuff, let's make the investments, but let's live free. That's my favorite part, is everything that we talk about is how do we live greater, better lives because our money's working for us now.
So, I mean, now you have your time back, you have your life back. What are you doing with this time? Because now you've shifted from a life of survival and you're now living a life of impacts. So, what's the most impactful thing you're waking up to do every day?
I'll tell you two things, okay? Number one, I'll say the community. One of my favorite things to do inside of my world is be able to help someone take control over their money and watch the impact in their life, right? Watch their marriages improve, watch them start to achieve goals and dream again. And that's one of my favorite things. I love interacting with our community.
Mhm.
But the greatest source of fulfillment that I have, to be honest with you, Stephanie, is with my family. When I started this journey, my kids were small. My daughter just turned 18. I've got a son who's 20. And I've got
Wow.
a son who's 14, and we go on little one-on-one trips. We go on family trips. We go on bike rides. We built a house a couple of years ago up in the mountains because we love being in the mountains. And just that's my favorite thing, is just living a life. I found that financial freedom, at least for me, it
Mhm.
doesn't actually cost that much money. I don't really need fancy cars, or I don't wear, fancy watches or anything like that. If that's what you want, that's totally cool. But for me, I found if I own my time and if I can be with the people I want to be with, and if I can travel and experience the world, that's
Yeah.
freedom for me.
Wow. And I like the way you put it because, like you said, financial freedom doesn't mean fancy cars, high-end hotels, and whatnot, because that's what media has painted it. So everyone think, oh, it's unattainable. It's only for the super rich. I can't do it. I'm just from a middle class. But now you're living out that life and you're doing it. And aside that, you're speaking on mid stages. You're building a podcast. You're leading this beautiful community of freedom fighters. I'll call them
I
freedom
love
fighters.
that.
And you're building multiple businesses simultaneously. So where do you see yourself 5 years, 10 years from now? Because I
Mm.
mean, you're free. So what are you gonna do with all this time? Because many
You
people
know what?
find purpose with the daily striving and looking forward to a goal. But now you've reached that goal, you've picked. So what's the next big thing for you right now?
Yeah, I love that you asked that question. So here's one thing I've learned about financial freedom.
Mm.
In the game of retirements, everyone thinks that retirement's a destination. One day I'll have enough money and I'll buy my life back. That's kind of the idea. Trade 30, 40 years. Hopefully you have enough. And people have kind of set the age of 65. So it's a destination. Financial freedom is a lifestyle. And all that means is if I want to travel more, if I do want to buy a fancy car, we're going to build a cabin here in a couple of months. And
Oh,
I can just go back to my game and say, okay, I want to increase my expenses. I'm going to buy a few more assets to increase my cash flow so I stay ahead of the game and I'm
oh,
always financially free. So financial freedom, there isn't really a checkout destination. It's just what do I want? How do I use money as a tool to do it? And how do I keep playing the game at higher and bigger levels? But I'll tell you what, everyone inside of our community, inside of their game plan, the first thing before we ever do any tactics with them, we actually require it because without it, it's pointless. You have to have a major definite aim. What is your major, like if you woke up tomorrow and money wasn't the reason that you made the choices that you make today, what would change about your life? And if you can get a clear and conscious major definite aim that you're cognitively aware of and you can emotionally commit to,
right.
then every dollar has meaning and purpose to you. And so right now, my major definite aim is I just turned 46. And at the age of 50, so 4 years from right now, everyone in my community and everyone in my company knows I'm going to take a year-long sabbatical. I've never done this, but I'm going to take a year-long sabbatical, meaning I'm not going to be present in the community. I'm not going to be present in the company. And so right now we're building the leadership team. We're building the coaching. We're using technology. We're doing a lot of different things to allow me to step away from the business and still allow all of our clients to get the outcomes and the fulfillment that they need and want. And I don't know if you know what this is. I bought an earth roamer and an earth
Okay.
roamer is a oh my gosh, it's phenomenal. It's a custom built it's a custom built camper truck
Oh,
off-road vehicle, solar power, so it can stay out, it's off grid 100%. I mean, so anyway,
are you
my
preparing for
youngest
the
son
end
is
of the world?
14. What's that?
I said, are you preparing for the end of the world?
No, no, no. I love seeing the world. So my son and I, we're gonna take it all the way up through the West Coast, up through Canada, up into Alaska, back
Yeah.
down through Canada, all the way around the United States, down into Mexico. So we've got a whole year-long trip planned. I'm so excited for it. So that's my big pursuit right now is to replace me in the company to where the clients can get better outcomes than I can give them by having a strong team in place to get those outcomes for them.
That sounds like a fun journey. And I like the fact that you have something planned so you can look forward to it and you're already working towards it. So, because many people, like you said, think retirement is an end goal. Because once you retire and you're not doing anything, you're going to die quickly. So, it's not a destination, it's a lifestyle. You retire, you're living free, you're not chasing after the money bag. You're using your life to live. You've
That's it.
bought back your time and you're now living your life on your own terms and doing what is fulfilling to you. I like
That's
what
it
you're
right
doing.
there. Yeah, I love that, Stephanie. I really think money's greatest intrinsic value is to empower you to live a purpose-driven life. And, I use the word retirement in my book because that's what people understand. But
Yeah.
financial freedom is really what I believe in. I believe in using my money to make impact, to create experiences, to give. I just want money to be a tool to allow me to live the life that I'm proud of. That's really what it means to me.
Ryan, you've basically you've broken all our doubts right now and we're ready to make money and become financially free. But that brings us to the second part of this episode. It's called the Firecracker Round. So this is me asking you a bunch of questions to make sure you're not AI because you're like, oh, this guy has so many bright ideas. So what's
I
one
love
money
it.
belief you grew up with that has turned out to be completely wrong?
That money doesn't grow on trees.
No,
Now, I've never seen money growing on trees, but what I've learned is money is printed. In the
huh,
United States, they're printing money constantly. And so money does grow on trees. You just have to understand how to access money inside of our economy. And that's the leverage discussion that we had earlier.
no. I know your kids are the luckiest kids on the planet because they wouldn't have to stress over money. But if you could give them one financial principle today, what would that be?
Man, the one financial principle is to find your God-given talents and to live a life in pursuit of developing and using that talent in the service of other people.
That's very grounded. Are you Christian? I like the fact that it's very grounded. You're directing them to live a purpose-filled life.
Yeah, I am. I do believe each one of us were given unique gifts, skills, talents, and abilities.
Yeah.
And Stephanie, the talents that we were given, they weren't given to us to have them. They were given for us to use them in the service of other people. And that, honestly, Stephanie, that's the greatest currency you can find in life. Money can never buy fulfillment. But when you
Yes.
find your talents and you use it to help other people make the world a better place, that's how you find fulfillment. And so that's the one piece I try to help my kids understand is in school, you might learn how to have a career, and that's fine. But
Yeah.
in school is not going to teach you how to find your God-given talents. Find, develop, and use your talents to make the world a better place.
Yeah. I mean, that resonates strongly with me because one of the biggest turning points for me during COVID. So when COVID happened, I felt like, oh, the world is going to end and we'll just die. So there's no need to aspire for anything. So I had given up on everything. I was just like, oh, yeah, Jesus is coming. Let's just wait for the rapture to
I
happen.
felt the same way. I thought, man, God could come anytime now, I bet.
I read the parable of the 10 talents and it struck me because I'd never seen it that way before. It struck me that God has given us all these talents and He expects us to use it because we're not going to use it in heaven. Is useless. We can't. These talents are going to be useless when we get to heaven. So we make the most of it now, and that's how we're going to be judged on how we've made use of the talents, the gifts that He has given to us. So that woke me up.
Love that.
I can't
Stephanie,
continue this life of working for a paycheck. I need to do something. I need to bring my value to the world.
that's my greatest fear. Like, imagine meeting the person we could have been and
Hmm.
realizing we played it small, we played it safe, we didn't maximize our talents. That would be scary. And then also think about it this way. I mean, I've thought a lot about exactly what you just said. Our world is it's filled with problems. I mean, there's problems everywhere, right? And I think the reason there's so many problems is, when I say we collectively, humanity thinks that we can elect someone to solve problems. Every problem has a purpose to it, right? And the purpose is to wake you up, somebody up, that you have a talent that would solve that problem. And if you stay asleep to your talents, that problem goes unsolved and it just gets bigger and more elaborate. If people just woke up today and stepped into their God given purpose, I think we could turn the world around in, a matter of months. Like every problem is awareness that someone is asleep to the talent that they have that would solve that problem.
I like what you said. Every problem is an awareness that someone is asleep to the fact that they have to solve that problem. Yeah, because every business, everything we see being done today is a solution to a problem. And if we're not creating those solutions, the world is never going to be a better place. Even if we elect Jesus Christ to come and to
Totally.
govern.
I think he would just help us recognize our talents and solve the problems. That's probably what he do is like, I gave you the solution already. Let's help you develop it.
So, Ryan, in this world of AI and constant updates, what's your favorite AI tool to stay ahead of
You
the
know what?
game?
My favorite AI tool is it's really learning how to ask better questions. So I use
Mm,
chat quite a bit and Grok quite a bit, but we're
okay.
actually building a software right now in our company.
Oh,
Everything that we've done has been done in spreadsheets and game plans and things like that. But we're just taking our proprietary passive income machine game plan and we're building out a spreadsheet. In fact, the bot just launched yesterday. And so I have thousands. I mean, I'm not even kidding, Stephanie. I have thousands of hours of content. So, think about the questions that you're going to ask when you own 50 properties versus the questions that you're going to ask when you own one property. They're completely different. And so I've
yes.
recorded videos, with our groups on just about everything. And we've got experts in our community that record their expertise inside of, tax strategy and life insurance and all the different things. And so this AI bot, it now went and it found all of the answers, and you can type in, what should I do here? And boom, it'll grab the answer and then say, hey,
Mm.
watch this video for more context. And so it's such a powerful tool when you can ask better questions and you can use it to help you build better decision-making processes.
Oh, I'm interested. What's the name of the tool? Is it
Uh,
available to all of us or just your community members?
It's almost coming out. So we're going to launch it at our live event here in 2 weeks. It's called
Okay.
Compass. So it's meant to give you a compass of knowing, how do I follow true north?
That makes a lot of sense. I'm looking forward to Compass. I think I'll put the link to the launch event so that people can join in. And I
There
would
you
like
go.
to be part of that as well. So how do you unwind and reset? I know you have a plan to travel the world in your beautiful custom made vehicle, but how do you unwind and reset and keep
Yeah.
up?
For me, it's always outdoors. That's whenever I go outdoors and I step into the quiet of the mountains, I put my
Mhm.
hands or my feet on the ground. I just remember life is so busy, life is so noisy, it's so distracting. And when I step out, and I change my pace and I change my place, my perspective changes. And so
Mm.
for me, unwinding is always getting outside. It's being in the sunlight, being in the rain. It doesn't matter. Being outside in the mountains and just breathing and remembering that everything has a purpose, that God has timing, that life never works out the way I thought it was going to work out. But in hindsight, it works out exactly as it needs to work out. And I always find that awareness by going outside.
Now that's really good. There's this, I'm Nigerian, so there's this common word we use in Nigeria. We say, go and touch grass. It means go outside and snap back to reality. And
Yep,
that's,
I love it.
it renovates you, helps you to see that life is not all up in your head. Go outside and see
Yeah.
that the bigger world out there.
Man, that's such a powerful message. Go and touch grass. I mean, that grounding when you just like touch the ground and you realize, okay, it's
Yeah.
okay. Take a deep
It's
breath.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been amazing having you. This is so packed. This episode is so packed. I feel like I can squeeze out a lot of gems and just topic after topic after topic, and we need to bring you back in. But how can we get you to you? Your socials, your websites, your community page. How can we get you to you?
Well, first off, I have to say, Stephanie, thank you for creating the platform to allow me to come and talk to you and your audience. It is an honor to talk to someone who believes that money is a tool to, live an impactful life. And I love that you're leading other people to do it. So
Mm.
thank you for creating that space for me to come in and share. To get in touch with me, I would say the best way is the book. It's retireintenyears.com. It's the number 10, not the letters 10, but retireintenyears.com. I'm on social media at the Ryan D. Lee. D is my middle name, so the Ryan D. Lee. Or you can go to YouTube, Wealth Outside Wall Street. So any one of those places, you can find me.
Nice. I'll make sure to leave the links in the description so our guests can go right there and attack you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you, Stephanie.
Well, Ryan, so what's the D in your name? I saw Ryan D. Lee, but what's the D?
The D is named after my father. D is
Mm.
for Douglas. So Ryan Douglas Lee.
Ah, that's amazing. The Lee sounds like you're Asian.
No Asian in me. Just I grew up on a little teeny farm town. No Asian whatsoever.
Nice. Thank you so much, Ryan. I think I've bothered you, So thank you so much for joining me on the pod today.
Likewise, thank you.
Yeah, and there we have it, guys. Ryan has basically broken down all things passive income. He talked about his book. The book has the system inbuilt, and there's a course within where you can kickstart your financial freedom journey. So make sure to leave the links in the description so you can go right there and check him out. Till we come your way again next week, let's continue to turn knowledge into action and bricks into banks. This has been Bricks and Banks with Steph, and this is me signing out.